Previously on Funny Science Fiction.
And I remember starting that scene and thinking, oh man, I'm with Scott Bakula. He's such a great actor. You know, shoot, I hope I don't just totally mess up this scene.
Hi, this is Patricia Tallman, and welcome to Funny Science Fiction Podcast.
The podcast that got you to stop arguing about which was better in the Star Trek versus Star Wars debate and got you to hate us instead. Now, our guest today is someone that you'll recognize from her time on Babylon 5 as Lyta Alexander. She's also been, though, part of Star Trek and Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager in various roles. But what's interesting to me is that she also has a background in stunt work, which you can see that work in Jurassic Park and several versions of Star Trek as well. So we are abso-fraggin-lutely excited to welcome Patricia Tallman to the Funny Science Fiction Podcast. Welcome, Patricia.
Thanks so much. I am so impressed that you got that castle reference in there. That's pretty good.
I am coming up on the episode that you're in like a couple more episodes.
Excellent.
I think my mother-in-law just watched that one.
Oh, really? I had
so.
such a fun time on that show. I have to say, I went into it. Our stunt coordinator from the Star Trek shows was coordinating Castle. So and I have a friend who was the showrunner, one of the showrunners on the show, Scott Williams. So he said, and then Dennis piled on. They put me up in a meeting saying, "Look, we got to bring in Pat for this part because she can do her own stunt and she can act in the scene before she dies." You know, so the producers got double teamed to bring me in. But my thrilling bit was I had. My first scene, I was a cadaver on the slab, right? So they have their opening scenes where they are discussing the case at large, and I had to get up like at 3:30 in the morning to be in makeup at 4:30 in the morning, where they put in the Y incision and make me look all dead but washed somehow. I of course I was exhausted. So then, but they do this lovely thing with the metal table that's in the morgue. They warm the table. They have like a heating, nice warm heating pad on there. And they have raised the table way up high because Nathan Fillion and Katya Stanek, who are the leads, are so tall. So for camera, they raised the thing up. So they had to get me a little steps to, I'm 5'9". I'm pretty tall myself, but they had to help me get on the table. And then I laid down and they fixed the sheets and they put my head on that little, it's a hard like chalk they put under your head. It's kind of like a football chalk. I mean, they put the football on to kick it. And I was so tired while they were setting up the lights that I fell asleep. And then I start to wake up and I realize there's all these people in the room, and I kind of crack my eyes open and they're rehearsing the scene. So I'm like, oh, I better be quiet. So, and then I fell back asleep. And the next time I woke up, everybody was gone. They had shot the scene and I had missed the entire thing. I was zonked out. So then I'm sitting up there going, hello. I'm trying to scoot off of the morgue table. I've got the sheet wrapped around me because I'm nude. And I'm like going, I have to hop down, I suppose, because now I'm, 6 feet off the ground. And Nathan Fillion comes running in the room and he says, "Oh, Pat, I am so glad. I'm such a huge fan. I loved you on Babylon 5. I love Night of the Dead." And I'm like, now I'm meeting one of my gorgeous heroes now. I've got a Y incision. My hair's all slicked back. And so we're talking, and a friend of mine who was on the props, he was also props on Babylon 5, came in and took a picture of Nathan and I put it in my book. I'm so proud of it. It was kind of a random
awesome
segue, but I had to have that picture in my book. It was like, oh, this is so cool. Yeah. And then when I was shooting the other scenes, I had an ice pick through my neck and I was kind of wired to the couch, so I couldn't really leave. And Nathan would come over and sit with me on that bloody couch and talk. He's got a lot of things to do, but he was so kind. Come over and kind of, just to keep me company while I was wired to the couch for the day.
The plus side to this really set of awesome stories that you're sharing here is that Well, at least when you first met him, you were freshly awakened from a nap. So you were.
There's that. I hadn't
Yeah,
thought of it like
you
that,
were
Tim.
you were spry. You were ready to go. So
Yeah. Yeah.
And just
I mean,
wearing a
and-
sheet, but you know.
Right? But
Wrapped
who
in a
else gets
sheet.
to tell the story that the first time you got to talk to Nathan Fillion, you're only wearing a sheet?
Yeah. 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 And he was a gentleman about it. The whole thing.
I
He
am-
was
if I ever get to meet Nathan Fillion, I'm going for just a sheet.
Get him in the sheet. That's
Yeah,
my
that's-
next
I'm
next
pretty
task.
I'm pretty
I'm
sure
right
that's how
there
I
with
get a
you.
restraining orders. But you know. All right, so Patricia, looking over your IMDb list of projects, there's a lot here to unpack. A lot of things to talk about because between both work as an actress and a stunt woman, you've been a part of some pretty major franchises in the motion picture and television worlds.
Yeah.
For those who are playing the home version of the game, we're talking, of course, about Babylon 5, Star Trek, Jurassic Park, Speed, Austin Powers, Naked Gun. We could go on and on. There's so much to talk about. But the first thing I wanted to ask you about was your work in the stunt world. Now, we had the privilege of talking with stunt woman Michelle C. Smith just a few episodes back.
Nice.
And I think for all of us that when we're talking about people who do stunt work, when we say, wow, I still have a hard time wrapping my head around some of the stuff that you guys do and how you do it and all that stuff. Because some of the things that you guys do are, of course, inherently dangerous. So it always makes me wonder when we have an opportunity to talk to somebody in the stunt world, what piqued your interest in stunt work?
I know you know what, I have to say, I think that it's a very strange thing to do. I really do. And I've talked to a lot of young people up and what have come through the ranks who are thinking about doing stunts, and I get real with them. It is not easy. It's kind of a dumb thing to do to your body, just impact after impact over the decades. And you're walking around like like a football player. You've seen these guys when they get older, they're decrepit, they're hurting, they're in pain every day. I'm in pain every day from the stuff that I did as a stunt woman. I've got arthritis. I've got, old broken spots that'll just never be right. But the great thing about doing stunts is that you are a part of an industry. Nobody goes into the film industry and stays in the film industry unless you're an enormous fan and you feel like you're privileged to be part of the magic. It's a very hard way to make a living. So you must really love it to stay in it.
Mhm.
Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah.
So you've got it. You can't go into it thinking I'm going to get famous or I want to meet Nathan Fillion. You just don't know if that's ever going to happen, right? That's the cherry on top. But the day-to-day grind is a whole other bag of toys. The getting up at 3:30, putting, in my case, I was a single mom, so I would have to either put my son, tuck him in over at my babysitter's house the night before, or I'm waking him up at 3 a.m. So, what's better, what's going to work? It's tough. You make some real major decisions about doing that. So, and you get to be part of the magic that we all love. That's why we're on this podcast right now, because,
absolutely.
Our shows make life more fun. Right? The shows
Yeah.
we love, the things we experience. We were talking about Game of Thrones earlier. For me, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, these movies and these series, they're uplifting, they're joyful. And that's what I love about Star Trek. Star Trek is like everything's so dystopian now. All the shows are so dystopian, and fair enough. Yeah, we're kind of earning that even as we speak. But
We're cusping.
Star Trek is hopeful. It's always hopeful. There's this vision of the future that we become smarter. We haven't proven that is a thing yet for the human race, but in the Star Trek universe, we get smarter. So that's, I love that.
Always hopeful.
Always hopeful. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And I agree that is one of the things that I love so much about Star Trek is they are happy endings. They are like exciting, new, we're smarter.
We're
I like
smarter.
that.
We evolve. We take in other beings and what they need and what's best for all. And it's not just about the bottom line and the money and it's a whole different way of existing. The earth looks like it's healing, it's cleaner, we've got all these clean ways of doing things. It's just really cool. Babylon 5, this other series that I was on, is more dystopian, more realistic, more it's a grittier world.
Right.
And again, like I said, I think that's fair and there's room for it all, but I really rely on Star Trek too for that good feeling. I want to go on that adventure. I love having that danger. We love those bad guys, but then it's really nice to feel like the ending is going to be a good one.
And I feel like that love of Star Trek started at a very young age for you.
Right. Sure did. I'm old enough now. I'm 64. And my dad, back in the days when I was a kid, we had one television set. You're tired of hearing these stories, right? One television set,
not a bit.
3 channels, and you had to watch the show when it was on. There was no VCR,
Right.
there's none of that stuff, right?
Right.
So my dad, whatever my dad wanted to watch, that's what the family watched. So he loved Star Trek. I was really too young to kind of get it. I didn't understand the significance of, let's say, Nichelle Nichols and her contribution.
Oh, absolutely.
As a human being and all that she's seen and done. But I started to love the show and I loved Spock. He was my favorite.
Oh, of course.
But yeah, then I would get together with my cousins and my other favorite show was Dark Shadows, which at the time was like a soap opera on at about 3:30 in the afternoon every day. So we'd have to run home from school in time to turn on Dark Shadows and watch that cheesy show, which is hilarious. They'd close the door and the whole set would it would wobble. The boom mic is in the scene and then it would go. They realized it was hilarious. But so we would play with our Barbie dolls, our Barbie and Francie with her twist and turned waist. We would play Dark Shadows and Star Trek. Original series.
That was actually something I had read on the Star Trek fan site, Memory Alpha.
Gosh.
That story about you playing Barbies with your cousin. And I think that's fantastic. I think that is absolutely wonderful.
I think it's interesting that we can set something that we love in our minds so young and then make it happen, because how it cannot be a coincidence that my career is science fiction and horror. I didn't set out to do that. I was just trying to get any job I could get.
Right.
I'm taking any job I could get. And the fact that those genres just became my life is pretty remarkable.
So when you were running home from school, it was uphill both ways, right?
In the snow, barefoot.
Right.
10 miles. Right.
I have to admit that now that I know that you played with Barbies and it was Star Trek themed, all I can envision now is Captain Ken and Barbie going to Malibu Barbie's Enterprise hideout.
We didn't have any Kens, so I made my old Barbie doll the Klingon, and I would put like aluminum foil, crunch it up on her head, and make it make her the Klingon. And then my Francie, I would take the aluminum out of spearmint gum wrappers, and I'd make little tiny costumes for her out of that. So she'd have a LeMay costume, Yeah. And that's what we did. We would just make clothes out of stuff. Yeah.
That is so cool. So I also, as I'm bouncing between screens, realizing that you performed at the Red Barn Theater in Saugatuck too.
Sure. Oh my God.
As Michiganders, all three of us are from Michigan. Yeah.
All of us.
No.
Yeah,
All of
we're all
us,
from Michigan.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah.
That's so great.
I just saw it in your bio on IMDb and I'm like, wait a minute, I know that.
Yeah. That's where I got my equity card. Yeah.
I've been to the Red Barn.
Yeah. It's only about an hour, I think an hour and 20 minutes south of my house. So
it's about an hour from my mom's.
That's crazy. That's crazy. How well, now I feel like we're all related somehow,
What's funny is we actually
you're my cousins,
We had a similar experience. When we interviewed Rob Paulson, the voice of Yakko Warner.
Oh.
He's born and raised Detroit.
Funny.
and he's wearing his Red Wings cap while we're talking to him, and I'm like, we're all in Michigan.
That's
Like,
hilarious. Oh
my Red Wings
gosh.
jersey out in the background there.
Ah, look
So.
at that. And Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi, I mean, that's where they met, was in Michigan.
And I love
started
that
working
the
together.
Midwest has done so much, especially for sci-fi. Like, I feel like there's a lot of sci-fi that's come out of the Midwest.
See,
We're just a bunch of happy nerds.
I mean, Kirk was born in Iowa.
there you go, right there.
I have friends who, when they got married in California, drove back to Michigan, and their cross-country trip was their honeymoon. And they stopped in the future birthplace of Captain Kirk.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It is cool.
So I just, sorry, Nick, with playing Barbies, playing Star Trek with your Barbies.
Yeah.
What was it about those shows that after you got to the age where you understood their significance a little more, what was it that inspired you? What was it about those shows that kept you interested in them?
Oh, that's a really good question, Kathleen. I don't think anybody's ever asked me that. I think that part of it is I love stories where there's an average person and then there's this extraordinary circumstance and they have to rise to the occasion. Like all the stories we love are like that, you know. It's obviously Star Wars, it's the hero's journey, but I didn't know that back in the day, obviously. And so what I liked were these heightened stories. The heightened story in science fiction. Wow, you can go anywhere. Those, even in horror, like this extraordinary, what's the word? Not necessarily an enemy, but an obstacle, crazy, extraordinary obstacle, like that's super wicked, or it's haunting, or it's a monster. In science fiction, it could be, you know, anything.
Right.
In horror, it could be anything. So I think that was part of it, just that the elevation of the stories. Yeah.
That's really cool. That's cool to know. And I agree that is the fun thing about stories, is when you have that regular Joe who's thrown into this incredible scenario. And I think that we all enjoy that, and we have to figure out then how to survive it, right? And we love. So for me, honestly, and I hope I don't get hate mail about this, but I had Superman, Spider-Man, X-Men comic books. I love the comic books, but I'm a little tired of superheroes. Yeah, because they're not the average guy. You know, they're not the average woman. They already have superpowers. And so, oh, poor them, you know, it's really hard to care, you know, but you care about Luke Skywalker. Right. You care because he's just a boy. and he was, you know, and he was orphaned, and he had this life, and he's you care about Harry Potter. He's kept in a cupboard. Oh my God. Right. You know, we care about those stories. So he lived with the Dursleys. That was horrible. I know. And there's Dursleys everywhere. There are. As you grow up and you realize that the Dursleys are real. They're everywhere.
I'm gonna need you guys
Nick is just like shaking. He's laughing.
I'm gonna need you guys to use your Muggle words, because
hey, but you did it. You understood a reference.
I understand the reference. I just know that it's something I don't understand, and that it's not I'm apparently a Muggle. That's what I know.
Oh, for sure. Or nomads. You could say nomads too.
I will say they are doing a lot of stuff with the superheroes and stuff, and like almost everyone's like, oh, let's do superheroes. And I definitely see where you're coming from. Like, it's starting to not be the thing anymore.
They're starting to not be super anymore.
Yeah.
Well, how many superheroes can we have? And then the other thing that upsets me, okay, and fair enough, Tim, that's fair enough. But the other thing that upsets me is whenever you have the supervillain and the superhero, then all the average people, their cars get smashed, their buildings get smashed, they die, their dogs get run over, and they're all like, dude, we're right here.
Nobody ever thinks about the collateral damage
going
with superheroes.
On. Right. And my favorite lingerie shop just got smashed. I mean, come on.
Right?
God. Inconveniences.
Yeah.
I always love it in the superhero movies when after all that happens, they all come out like, "Thank you for everything. That was awesome."
I know. Right?
But in reality, yeah.
You just did thousands upon thousands of dollars worth of damage.
Yeah.
I feel like there was
New
a
York
show
gets
that
wiped out all the time.
Right. It's in perpetual construction.
New York and London. Those
Yes.
And London gets the superheroes and the aliens. I mean, that's just.
I know. And James Bond comes through with the super
Doctor Who
villain.
has screwed that town over so much.
Oh man. Oh.
Different time zone. I mean, different
Different
times.
times. I was just thinking that. Yeah.
Different times, but it just, it
Over
like,
the centuries.
Yeah. Once every couple years. Well, it's time to do London in again.
Have they rebuilt the eye? Okay, we can go back in.
We can destroy it again.
And go.
Yeah.
So, Patricia, we all have a hidden gem that is like close to our hearts of sorts. What role that you really enjoyed that was like your hidden gem that you have done that we
I don't
should
think
be aware
anyone
of or
has ever
something?
asked me that either.
We try to be original. It doesn't always work, but we try.
And that's what counts. I would. The first thing that pops into my head, I don't know if this counts, but it would be a play that I did in New York City at the Riverside Shakespeare Festival Theater Company, and I played Rosalind in As You Like It, and I was so enormously proud of that. Just for, first of all, learning all those lines. Holy smokes! But the play itself is just this this epic from start to finish. It's just for the character of Rosalind, it's just racing from scene to scene to scene, and it's just a powerhouse role for an actress. And I was really, really thrilled to be able to do it. And now no one will ever see it. It's that ephemeral theater experience. It's you got to be there.
Yeah. Which play was it?
It's As You Like It by
As You Like
Shakespeare.
It.
Thanks for
Okay.
asking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, that's cool.
Shakespeare is not an easy thing to learn.
And it was one of the reasons I got into this business and got into becoming an actress was being on the stage, and Shakespeare was a huge reason for me. That's why I think I love Armin Shimmerman so much. And Armin came into when COVID locked us down, I started an online convention basically called B5 Events, and Armin was my guest for one of the events. And for we called it a spotlight, he taught Shakespeare for non-actors. Like, how do you read Shakespeare? And we had volunteers that I organized ahead of time that he would put together in a scene, and then he would teach them as they were reading the parts. It was remarkable.
Cool.
It was so remarkable. He's quite a special person.
He really is. He
Super
was amazing when we talked to him.
Kind and so clear. I bet taking a class with him would be fantastic. And if we ever get out of COVID and he starts teaching again, I would be a part of that in a heartbeat.
Oh, I'd sign up for that.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
It was like, I don't even like Shakespeare, and I'd sign up for that.
Yeah.
And if you have someone like Armin working, you love it so much. You start to love the Shakespeare, and then you can't wait to read more to use what he's taught you.
Oh,
Right.
That's how good he is. Yeah.
I think in many times when, depending on the topic, it comes down to the teacher.
Yeah.
They can be teaching a topic that you're not especially fond of, but because the teacher is so good,
Absolutely.
it makes it more palatable, and then it becomes. Now, that never worked for me with math, but I think it could work for Shakespeare.
I have the same. I'm the same, Tim. It never worked for me with math.
Once the devil put letters in the numbers, I was screwed. So
I just didn't. Yeah.
They don't belong together.
no. No.
Sorry,
So-
I had the opposite problem.
Nick, there needs to be people like you because of people like us.
Right.
Yep.
So then we say, here, give it to Nick.
Right?
Exactly.
Nick can do it.
We'll deal with the words. You deal with the numbers. Like,
Yeah, I have been kind enough to pass on my mathematical issues onto my children.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I was hoping that at least one of them would break the genetic trend. So far, I'm 0 for 3. So I say so far like there's another one possible that ship has sailed. But yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah,
Your kids are cool.
There's other things that we're strong at.
That's why we have calculators.
Exactly.
And the number of stupid teachers with you're not going to carry a calculator around in your pocket.
Right?
Yeah. I saw that meme.
I so want to go back.
Face, Kathleen.
I'm so annoyed by it.
I so want to go back to my high school math teacher and be like, lesson learned?
Right. Like, what's your job now?
I graduated in 2010 and I was still having teachers in 2010 tell me, you're not going to carry a calculator around in your pockets. It's called a cell phone.
Wow.
I had a BlackBerry back then. I had a calculator on it.
There
were calculators and sure.
The way that I got through math in high school was I found out that you could Google the equation and Google would solve the equation for you.
Wow. See,
that would have been helpful in the 90s.
Or in the 1960s.
They barely had Google in the 90s though, Tim.
You know what? Nobody asked you.
I am older than Google, Tim.
Nobody asked you, Kathleen. All right. So, well, Patricia.
Fun listening to young people.
Yes. Keep trying to remind myself why we keep her around. Anyway.
I don't know. I really don't. If I could get rid of me, I would.
Oh, no.
She's the little,
but I'm stuck with me.
She's the little sister we never wanted, but yet we have her.
You're way too cute, Kathleen. They would.
Oh, thank you. I need that soundbite. I'm just going to keep that soundbite for the rest of my life.
That will get clipped. So, Patricia, to be completely honest, I haven't ever watched a lot of Babylon 5, and I'm not biggest. I'm not the biggest Trekkie in the nerd herd here. But two things seem to be pretty evident to me as I look at the shows that you were on, and I kind of compare some of the things between the two franchises. There's some major similarities between Deep Space Nine and Babylon 5, and it seems to me that the fandom of Babylon 5 is pretty ardent in their appreciation for that series, that show. Now, let's skip all the controversy if one show is like the other, and there's claims going both directions that, from what I read online. It's kind of an interesting conversation, by the way.
Well, I know what happened. I was there.
Okay, well, I was going to skip this. I was going to skip this, but yeah, inquiring minds want to know.
And I know that it's out there somewhere. I think what's happened between the B5 and the lawsuit between is that it got resolved out of court and they're no longer allowed to talk about it. But at the time we knew what was happening. I mean, Joe Straczynski, who created Babylon 5, had written this show called Babylon 5, and he took what it was then called a Bible. He was he's the first to do a 5-year arc. J.J. Abrams, Josh Whedon, Rockne O'Bannon, they all give kudos to Joe for being the first one that had the chutzpah. Did I do that right?
I hope so. Sounds good to me.
To push this idea of a 5-year arc. And he took this Bible to Paramount, who is the logical studio to take on an epic sci-fi series like this called Babylon 5. And they held on to that Bible for a year. And then they returned the Bible back to Joe and said, nah, we're not going to do it. And then they started production on Deep Space Nine. It wasn't hard to trace. It wasn't hard to figure out. It was really obvious at the time. And so Joe, the B5 team raced into production in this with, like $10 in the bag. And Paramount got ahead of them because they have their Paramount.
Sure.
And so Deep Space Nine was released just weeks or a month before Babylon 5 came out. But there's crazy similarities, and there's a lot of difference. Obviously, the shows are very different, and that's a good thing. I think there's room to enjoy both shows. I was working on both sets at the same time. I didn't talk to anybody about it. I'd work over at Babylon 5 one day. The next day, I'd be dressed up as Dax on Deep Space Nine. And I was at craft service getting a cup of coffee. And I saw one of the producers, one of the Star Trek producers. He worked on all the shows. I won't say who, but was kind of looking around, and he, kind of casually approaching me at the craft service table. And he said, "I love you on Babylon 5," and then took off. And I was like, how does he even know who I am? I look like Terry Farrell right now. I've got long dark hair and freckles, and I'm in a blue uniform. I mean, what? It was the weirdest thing.
That's awesome.
But great though. But B5, like I said, had this very gritty, dark dystopian thing going on, and clearly Paramount wanted to stick with the Star Trek version of that. They did try to bring in some color, like with the Ferengi, and getting, having something going on with that. But yeah, that's what happened.
So did Terry stunt for you in Deep Space Nine?
Yeah. That would have been funny.
Yeah, that's a way better answer to any of the question I was going to ask. So we're just going to go with that. So.
Oh yeah, it's not terribly mysterious. And Joe and Majel became friends. Majel came on our show. She had a character on the series.
That's cool.
Yeah, yeah. So they worked it out. And I think because the shows ultimately were so very different, it was
right. So similar.
I think they settled
at the beginning. Yeah,
I think they settled, and part of that was we can no longer talk. So we can no longer speak of this. We're no longer speaking about this. But no one has approached me with that. So
it's in the hushed tones of the corners of the nerdiverse.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty well understood. But maybe not.
Well, I think maybe not for me, perhaps, because I'm coming in from the outside. These two can vouch for my lack of Trekkiism.
Coming in as a Star Wars fan.
Yeah, yeah, I'm pretty hardcore into the Star Wars camp. So
as I sit over here with my pew pew shirt on, obviously,
Star Wars is amazing. I mean,
it is
incredible. I remember taking my little brother when Star Wars first was happening, and then we heard about this thing. I was like, oh no, I was too cool for school, and so I didn't want to be as goofy about it as he and his friends, but I had to take them. And we stood in line, which had never happened before. Nobody stood in line for the theater. Right. In those days, nobody. There was this line, and we were in line for like 45 minutes, and boy was I cranky about that. I was like, what? But I'll never forget sitting in that theater, and the sound starts, and that the words
chord hits,
and you lose your mind at that moment, and then for the rest of the next 2 hours, you're just mind blown. I went back to see it like 3 times before I headed off back to college. I was just like, oh my God.
But I love that even now you hear that first and your brain's just like, yay.
Yeah.
Sideways.
Yeah.
My brain goes, yes, please. More.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
More.
Absolutely.
What's funny is like I've seen the things on TikTok of the like, what does this note trigger in your mind? And it's like emo music and punk music, and I'm like, oh yeah, I know that song, and I know that song, and I know that song. And somebody did it the other day, and the first chord of the Star Wars song hit too, and I'm like, oh, yay. That sounds like my childhood. I love this.
Yes, indeed.
Oh, so the majority of us have spent the last 2 years at home because of this wonderful public health situation that is still happening.
Yes.
Yay.
Yeah. So much fun. And it's been a bit of a challenge to maintain our positivity, especially when using social media. But Patricia, you have found an interesting outlet in something called the Safe Space in Patreon.
Oh,
which I am excited about. That is amazing that you've done that.
Thank you.
So what led up to you starting that Patreon community, and what do you think the biggest benefits are for it?
Oh, that's I have been on quite a journey for years, the past 10 years, 9-10 years. And it's all kind of, the shutdown. I started a travel business. The universe is hilarious. And I was having 5 years in and finally really kicking in. I led my first big trip to New Zealand. It was epic. It was a huge success. I'm in Scotland scouting out my next trip, and we ended up in lockdown in Scotland. It was kind of
Could be a worse
remarkable.
place to be locked
No, it
down.
was awesome. Actually, it was really, really awesome. But then it was like we finally get back home. I started a new business in 10 days. The business was B5 events. It's like, we need, as a community, we need to keep talking to each other. We need to stay cool. We need to find an outlet, so the B5 events was started. And then I thought, okay, having an event once a month, which is about as much as I could manage, is great. And we need something else. We need more. Facebook is problematic for a bunch of reasons. And I wanted a place. Patreon doesn't even have what I want. So I'm actually talking to some people about creating my own, because what I want is what Patreon offers, as folks join and they can pay $5 or they can pay more to be a part of this community. And then we have activities all month. We've got regular activities, that we have things that just happen during the month. And I lead a topic every month on some sort of personal development theme. Again, trying to keep everybody up and positive and moving forward. And I have guests in when they're available to talk. Nana's been in, Armin. So let's see. Where was I going with that? So what I really, really want is to combine the best things about Facebook with what Patreon has, and without having to have all these disparate different apps that sometimes don't play nice. Right. So that's kind of my challenge these days. But that's what I wanted to do, is to create a community, a safe space for people who wanted to nerd out together, and we're also interested in some personal development. How do I become more productive? I've got this creative idea. What do I do? Blah, 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 blah. Bring in your question.
Having that community, but still safely. I like that idea. That's really cool.
Yeah, and I curate it. I've only had to kick one person out, but I make sure that we have a set of guidelines that we all feel good about. Similar to what we're talking about here. No politics, no religion. If you're welcome to have those talks, but just not here.
Not here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And keep it so that it is. What's the word? It's always working towards the positive. It doesn't mean that you're not having a bad time. Like one of our members went through a really hard death with his grandma, and that we'll grieve with you. We'll sit on the curb and cry with you, right?
Right.
We're not going to solve your problem. Can't fix that, but we can be with you, and that's the point.
You can acknowledge it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right.
And as we've mentioned, we have the Funny Science Fiction has a very large Facebook group, and that is a hard thing to manage. All three of us are on the moderator admin side of that, and it is a constant
wrangling
battle.
It's like wrangling cats.
I don't have quite as many as you guys do, but I do have a big group too on Facebook, and it is kind of the Wild West. It's like, I can't believe this stuff, people. And they're just trolls coming in to cause trouble. And we try to kick them out, but there's, I can't, like you have found. So that's why I like the Patreon is very specific. And I feel good. I don't know if you guys have a Patreon page. I haven't checked you out like that yet. But if people are chipping in a few bucks, then that means something. That means that they really want to be there. And that seems to make a difference between what's just free. And that's cool too. And I have that. But if you want to get into this deeper discussion and you want more community, then it's really nice to contribute towards that, because I pay an assistant. I pay Patreon. I pay PayPal fees. I pay, and it's my time.
Right.
And I really appreciate being supported so that I can spend the time and research these topics and run these workshops. And yeah.
That's really cool.
It's making me grow too as a person, and making me step up.
So speaking of social media, our Facebook page over 185,000, as Tim was mentioned.
Kudos.
And it is just filled with meme after meme after meme. And it's usually this universe and this universe smashed together, or this character and this character. So which two of your characters would you like to see come together to either become nemesis or to work together?
Whoa. You guys got a lot of interesting questions.
We try.
Two characters. Let's see. It's interesting because both Barbara in Night of the Living Dead and Lyta from Babylon 5 were kind of stunted development creatures. You know, they're these women that had either been controlled or didn't have a lot of life experience. And then they both find some strength. And in Barbara, it's looking for the weakness in the zombies and finding a way to overcome that and figure out an answer there. And for Lyta, she'd been what's the word? Abducted and adjusted by aliens. So she's no longer just a human, and her life's really not her own, you know. So I don't know. Maybe those two would be interesting to see go toe to toe as nemesis, because I wonder what they would bring out in the other. You know, when you have to collide, you're forced to grow or be destroyed. So that would be kind of interesting. Not that the problem with Lyta is she's kind of like one of those superheroes. Like when you have so much power, where do you go with that?
Right.
So it's not so
What's
much
your
that
ceiling?
she would be vanquished in that sense, but maybe her humanity could be reached and developed. That would be interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that an answer?
That is an
That's
answer.
That's
I
a
like
very
that
good answer.
Okay.
Yeah. It makes you wonder because you have to look at that, like you said, with Lyta and her powers. You have to say, okay, what's the ceiling?
Right. Or that person has to grow so much that their power becomes secondary to who they really are. And then I don't know. You know, I think that's where it gets interesting with the superheroes is they have dilemmas that they're trying to face. Tony Stark, I thought, had a really interesting arc in that he finally faced his own weaknesses and his humanity, as opposed to just his ego and his curiosity and, you know, him thinking he always knew the right thing. He had to take a turn that he didn't expect to having to, and he paid the ultimate price for that. Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
So another one of the things that we like to do with our social media group is that on Facebook, we like to try and involve them with our interviews as much as possible. So earlier this afternoon, we posted a picture of you as Lyta from Babylon 5 and said, hey, today we're talking with Patricia. Is there any question you would like to ask her? And so we've each selected a question from one of our Facebook members. And if you don't mind, we'd like to share these with you and get your take on them.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. So the first one comes from Mitchell Parsons. He wants to know how you feel. How does she feel about the reboot of Babylon 5?
Right. I'm super curious. I mean, like I said, Joe's the guy that gave us the 5-year arc and these epic, long, thought out storylines that we've all come to love. It's going to be really interesting to see what he thinks is interesting next. The reboot isn't going to be, you know, a scene by scene, shot by shot redoing. You know, it's going to be a new animal. And so I'm very excited to see what he does with it. Yeah. Okay. I think the show's in really good hands with Straczynski. Right.
Awesome.
Excellent.
We want some new stuff to watch. Let's see. Bring it.
Sorry. I'm okay.
Very good.
Okay, good.
So I also have a group. Yeah, wow. I'm good. Tim.
Don't edit that. Leave that in. That's awesome.
I like those.
Yeah, I got this.
She'll kill me later.
Nah, it's all right. So I also have a question from the group. This is from Jim Carbone, and he wanted to know, what role would you like on a current sci-fi show? And I kind of wanted to expand that into a little bit of the upcoming films, TV shows, and of course, if there's anything that you already have an NDA against, obviously not.
I don't have any
violating
NDAs.
those.
Haha. Thanks. Tim was his name. Was that Tim?
Jim.
Jim. Thank you, Jim, for your question. What current? I'm enjoying the Robert Jordan Wheel of Time. Is that right? Wheel of Time? I'm enjoying that. I've read those books, so long ago that I'm still surprised every episode. What? Oh, I think I knew that. Oh, what? So good.
I may have read that.
I think I knew. It would have been Game of Thrones. It would have been that. I would have loved to ride a dragon. I just want to. Oh, yeah. I want a dragon.
Doesn't everybody?
I would do anything to ride. Yeah. Yeah, but I don't have. I'm not as up on what might be coming down the pike. So if they were doing any more Harry Potter and hiring Americans, that would be something. Maybe in that case it would have to be Fantastic Beasts, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I could be a Fantastic Beast.
Could
some kind of beast. That'd be cool.
That would be fun.
Yeah. Did that answer that? Was that
it
good?
Did.
Yeah,
live
great.
inside of a briefcase that's bigger on the inside. It'd be so much fun.
I know. Full of creatures.
Tim's again like, I got nothing.
Got nothing. I don't know. See what you're missing?
So Chris Cooper from our group, his question was, so being a stunt woman, if a production forced you to have a stunt double when you were working as an actor and not a stunt double, did you
Sure.
Did you have those instances?
I did. And I said, bring her. Yeah, absolutely. I'll sit in my chair having my cup of tea. Yeah, no, I did, because it gave another woman a job, and then she gets residuals. So for those of you who are maybe not clear what residuals are, when you have a TV show and you sell it to a different, what do you call that? A different region. Like suddenly now Babylon 5 is over in Japan and rerunning in Australia. They will pay everybody a few cents. It's that we're profit sharing basically, because we're all part of that production. And so in order to receive a residual, though, you have to be on camera for an actor to get residuals. You have to be on camera. And so for a stunt person, what that means is it has to be your body flying through the air, or your body part taking a hit, or whatever it is. Like I did for Nana many times. It was my back or the back of my head, but nonetheless, I'm in the shot. And Nana was very cognizant about making sure that I got on camera that day. So I would try to do that too for my stunt doubles. And I think it's a great thing to be able to do. And
awesome.
plus I get to be, I get to sit in my chair like Judi Dench.
Get a little bit less damage.
Helen Mirren.
Pinky's out, everyone. Pinky's out.
Yes, exactly. Having my tea.
Oh, that's awesome. All right. So Patricia, we're at a point in our show where we want to run you through a little quiz.
Oh gosh. Just when I thought I had graduated and more quizzes. Okay.
All right. So it's a 5-question quiz.
Okay.
And each of the questions are multiple choice. Okay. So this will make it a little easier. However, so if you get 3 questions correct, we want to send you one of these handy dandy I gave to the Red Shirt Widows and Orphan Fund coffee mugs.
Aww.
Okay. If you get 4 questions correct, we're going to send you that coffee mug. And Nick, do you have the book this time?
It's like across the room, but I mean,
It's like he's looking at it. It's all the way over there.
You need to use your telepathy to bring it, or your psychokinesis. Bring it over.
All right.
Woo!
And so if you get 4 questions correct, we're going to send you the coffee mug and that book, which
and
is
Drayton's book.
Yes. This is written by our group founder, Drayton Allen.
Nice.
So that one is called Dances with Aliens. It's about the last man on Earth who's a dog, but not a dog that goes woof, but a singing, dancing dog of the cartoon theme park variety. And so it's all about how intelligent beings could travel to other cosmoses, but not yet recognize a guy in a dog suit. So it's kind of interesting.
That sounds really fun.
All right, good. Now,
Uh-oh.
if you get less than 3 questions correct, if you only get 2, We take a picture of you, we make a meme out of you, and we put it in our Facebook group. We like to call it the fun sequence. Are you okay
Do
with
I get
that?
a dunce cap? You put a dunce cap
We
on
can
me?
totally put a dunce cap
We
on
can
you if you want us
totally
to.
put a dunce cap on you if you'd like us to.
Well, I would deserve it. So
We put a pretty floral bonnet on Dan Povenmire. So.
And used a quote from Nathan Fillion on Firefly.
Well, that
I
wouldn't
swear
be so
by
bad.
my pretty floral bonnet, I'll end you.
Oh, I did love that episode. Yeah, that was a good one.
So,
But I'll tell you right up front. I know I have no brain cells left, but let's give it a try.
all right. So all 5 of these questions are about Babylon 5.
That doesn't mean anything. Trust me.
I realize that it's a 50-50 chance.
I probably know Harry Potter way better than Babylon 5. But all right.
Well, if I would have known that when I was writing the quiz. So, all right, Nick, take us out. Let's see how we do.
Oh.
What is the name of the planet below Epsilon 5? Is it Epsilon 3, Pluto, or Venus?
Epsilon 3.
You are correct.
Awesome.
Oh my
All
God.
right. Question number 2. What race had a weapon that was a huge black cloud that contained thousands of missiles and was capable of devastating an entire planet? Was it the Centauri, the Shadows, or Daywalkers?
It was the Shadows.
It was the Shadows.
2 for 2.
Sounds terrifying.
Yeah, they
Actually,
were
never
bad.
any Babylon 5.
No, they were bad. That's okay. Don't worry about it. It's a good show, though. I think you'd like it.
I was very, very pro Deep Space Nine. Like,
Well, you know what? They're so different. They really are super different, and the actors are wonderful. So I think you'd enjoy it.
I'm sure I probably would.
And I mean, I'm not even in the first season. So.
What did the Minbari called Sheridan because of an action he took during the Earth-Minbari War? Was it Destroyer of Worlds, Star-Lord, or Star-Killer?
Oh, that's not what I thought at all. Star Killer.
You are correct.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right, that's 3 questions. So you are safe from the meme verse. You have survived from. You're not going to be a meme. You get a coffee.
And
mug.
we send you a coffee mug.
I'm so
And-
excited about that because having been a red shirt many times,
And there we go. There's even t-shirts. The fun fact about Star Killers, that's actually also in Star Wars as well. It was originally going to be Luke. Star Killer became Luke Skywalker.
I didn't know that. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
Making Star Wars connections. Yay. All right.
I told you they're in the same
This
universe.
episode wasn't a total wash for you, Tim.
Yes.
Oh, goodness. All right, question number 4. What is the name of the organization who is responsible for hunting down rogue telepaths? That A, Titans, B, Warlocks, or C, Psycorps?
Psychor.
Correct.
Yeah.
Just for
Bester.
reference sake, the A and B were from Destiny 2. So
So
Nerd, Tim.
Star Trek, nerd. Bester, who was one of the heads who was always trying to trip me up, was played by Walter Koenig of Star Trek.
Ooh.
oh, neat.
Chekhov in Star Trek, yes.
Nice.
And for fun, what is the name of the Earth Force fighters? Is it Star Furies, Star Babies, or Star Wars?
Who wrote these? They're Star
Him.
Furies. But I wanted to say Star Babies just because that's the best. And you had to say Star Wars. Too.
Of
Well,
course.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, come on.
Thank you for making it easy for me.
So you mentioned Chekhov, and that's my one little Funko that's
Oh,
on my desk. I have
there's
others,
some,
but
yeah. I
the
mean,
only one here.
you will recognize actors in Babylon 5 because so many of the guest stars of the day, also guest starred on both shows on Star Trek and Babylon 5.
That's cool.
Nice.
Yeah, but Bester was a regular character, and he was a very popular guy you love to hate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I can imagine.
Excellent. So on our quiz, Patricia, you went 5 for 5. So at the end, after we're all done and we sign off, stick around for a couple extra minutes. We'll get your shipping information, and we do want to send you the book and the coffee mug. Okay.
Oh, that is so sweet of you. Thank you.
So, and just for kicks and giggles sakes, guys, there will be a link down below for the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund. So you can not only buy the merchandise, but remember that merchandise, 100% of the profits does support the Wish Upon a Teen Foundation.
Oh, that's very sweet, you guys. Cool.
So Patricia, thank you so much for being on the show today. Where can our listeners go to find out more about you, and what are some things you're working on now?
Oh, that's so, I appreciate it. Well, right now I run every Christmas. I have for almost 30 years, something called Be a Santa, which supports a foster family agency here called the Penny Lane Centers. And they support kids all over California. And these kids are really special. The kids we work with have been so abused, they can't be placed in regular foster care. So it's been an organization very near and dear to my heart. And they have created programs that have been groundbreaking, including kids of all genders, of all sexual identities, and helping kids with their mental health, as well as all the other things that kids need. And those programs have been shared all over the United States for free. They just give them away, like, here, we've tried this, it's working. So here, use it for your agency and see if it doesn't help your kids. So that's something that I've got going on right now. And it's all been crowdfunded since before crowdfunding ever happened. You know, the fans have all completely created this, made Be a Santa happen. So that's just beasanta.org. And all my links are in a link tree that you can find in my bio on Instagram. Instagram is just Patricia Tallman .rocks, because I'm a rock hound, not because I am a rock star, but that's all good. And in that link tree, you'll see I have a book for sale that I wrote about my 5 years on Babylon 5 and everything I was doing in between, including Jurassic Park and a lot of Star Trek. And I've got an auction going on right now. A couple of us, my friends who have been on series like Babylon 5 and Star Trek, are selling some memorabilia. I personally am moving. I'm selling my house next month. I'm putting it up for sale and I'm going to move. I'm not going to buy another house. So I'm going to hit the road and travel the world as far as COVID lets me. And that means I don't want to put stuff into storage. I'd rather get in your hands, the fans who would care about this stuff, rather than letting it rot in storage. So check out my eBay. And I've got a couple of crew jackets up right now, Deep Space Nine crew jacket, Babylon 5 crew jackets, Creepshow 2, stuff like that. Stunt Women Association jacket. So check that out. I really appreciate all your support. And my Patreon group is in that as well. My Patreon link tree is in the link tree. If you're interested in being part of a community and that's positive and uplifting, and that we work on personal development tools, I'd love to have you.
Awesome.
So, thanks so much, you guys. This is really sweet.
We will make sure that we put all of those links in our episode description so that our viewers and our listeners can find you.
Perfect.
And we want to remind everybody that if you haven't clicked the subscribe button yet, now is the perfect opportunity to do so, because subscribing ensures that we get more amazing guests like Patricia here today to have these great conversations with and funny moments for you guys to be able to listen to. So please subscribe. It's going to help us out more than you guys can ever really imagine. And be sure to check out Patricia's links as well. Go check out her eBay auctions, all that stuff. There's some cool stuff to be had there. Now, if by some chance you aren't happy with the content of our show today, please feel free to lodge a complaint with the head of our complaint department, Lyta Alexander. Lyta is a 6th-generation telepath who knows if you're complaining just to complain, or if you have a good reason for your complaint. Either way, once she's come to that conclusion, She will have the offended parties hunted down by the Psychors and dealt with. And frankly, that's all we're at liberty to discuss with you at the moment. It's not pretty, or so we've been told.
I fear for our lives.
Oh, yeah. It's so great to support the Funny Science Fiction podcast, because this takes a lot of time and technology and effort on their part. So it's really, every dollar helps. You don't have to be, to have deep pockets to be supportive and enjoy this show.
Thank you.
Well,
Yeah,
thanks again, Patricia. It was certainly a joy having you on the show.
Thank you for having me. I hope I can come back sometime.
We'd love it.
Definitely make that happen.
See where I am in the world at that point. Who knows where I'll be?
I mean,
that'll be such an adventure, though.
Mm-hmm.
We know a guy who does the scheduling. I'm sure we could work it out. All right, everybody. That's Funny Science Fiction. Thanks for watching.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Our show is brought to you by our charity sponsor, the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund, which supports the Witch Upon a Teen Foundation that helps out sick kids when they need it most. And just imagine the comfort you'll give Red Shirt crewman number 42. He'll know that when he puts on the red shirt and joins Vivian Marchand in the highway bed, only to be found dead, that he didn't leave his family destitute and without hope, because the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund has his back and what's left of his bed sheets.
And speaking of sponsors and show partners, check out this short video from our good friends over at Level Up Lightsabers. Information about Level Up Lightsabers and their online training sessions can be found in the episode description below.
On behalf of the rest of the hosts of Funny Science Fiction, we'd like to thank you for listening to this episode. If you'd like to be a guest on one of our future episodes, please contact us by means of our Facebook group, Funny Science Fiction. You can find us on Twitter or Instagram using the handle @FunnySci-Fi, or you can go to DraytonAllen.com and click the Contact Me link at the bottom of the page. Thanks again. Hope you enjoyed the episode.